Gas gang hoarders Judy Robinson, Don West, and Aiko are headed back to camp.
It's gonna be tight.
But they discover that there's an imposter among them. That imposter would be Dr. Smith here, aka June Harris. Of course, Smith shifts blame of the last gun incident. Then John and Maureen Robinson here, they discover that the gun was from their printer. Then Will Robinson here comes clean about it, but they catch on that someone else got to the gun before the suspect.
Why would someone give Angela a gun?
So it's investigation time. The couple heads out to find the perp, but they get railed off by the road by landquakes. Looks like they're stranded in tar for now. Speaking of land interruptions, Victor Dar and his gas gang have somewhat the same dilemma, but they have to race to the other side because if they don't, they'll be fried like a Yellowstone. They get into a bit of brake trouble, but Evans here manages to fix it. But pop goes the geysers. Evan is alive, but he's in a critical state.
You stopped breathing! Judy!
The team has to make a choice. Move the tank and risk spilling the fuel, or wait for a replacement and risk losing Evan.
Send for that replacement tanker.
The clock is ticking. Don makes the call and saves Evan. There's a bad omen on camp because Smith spots where the robot bit the dust. That's not a good sign because she begins rebuilding it. While that's happening, the Robinson couple tries to get out of the tar pits, but it swallows their chariot whole. On the plus side, the gas gang got Evan back, but they do have reduced fuel now.
We sacrificed the fuel for nothing.
Looks like everyone's headed back to the camp except for this couple. They're stuck under the tar pits now, so they have to salvage everything they can in the chariot to get a connection to everyone else. While this is happening, John says that he's regretted not spending more time with his kids, and he admits he was wrong. This looks like the start of a rekindling. Speaking of rekindling, Evan goes into shock, and he's flatlined.
Evan's dead.
Now that we're on that topic, John makes Maureen put on the spacesuit. They're running out of options to get out of the tar, so one of them has to make it. John offers himself to be the ultimate sacrifice. Maureen, on the other hand, has another idea. They create an inflated tunnel, and the lovebirds break out of there. Victor gets back to his family, and he tells them that almost all of the fuel is gone now. That isn't the end of it, because it looks like Vijay Dar is about to spill his guts. Back to the Robinsons' Jupiter, it seems that Will and Penny Robinson are spending some quality time, but they don't know that Smith is snooping around, gathering information on how to revive the robot. And for the finale, Vijay tells them, but oh man, Victor intends to get off the planet now.
We're getting off this damn planet.
Onward to the next episode. Starting off, the couple is hiking, but they come across Victor's Jupiter.
This Jupiter engine. That's my $5.
They're taking off, so Maureen tries to talk them down because they won't survive that launch thanks to the lack of fuel. John takes action and fights his way through Becker to try and sabotage the launch. Success. So it's Maureen's time to shine. The people gather around, so John and Hiroko break the apocalyptic news. But Maureen's got a plan to get one Jupiter into orbit.
Welcome to 1962.
Enough to bring back help. Maureen asks Neko Watanabe to be the pilot for this operation. Now that the secret's out, looks like Penny and Vijay are now on non-speaking terms.
Oh my god, I hate this planet.
Everyone now is busy doing their part to take apart the Jupiter and get it into space. Judy comes home, and now she's looking for Dr. Smith. Looks like she breaks the news about it, then they go back to their own camp. Maureen isolates her target first, and bingo, we've got a whopper. This whopper pulls lies on top of lies, but Maureen doesn't buy it, so it's jail time. Next problem, they need a new pilot, and it looks like John is the only qualifier for that. The kids aren't happy about this, but they have no other choice. Despite this, Jessica, or who she claims she is, won't shut up.
That's convenient.
Enough of that. Time for a dry run. Actually, it takes several practice runs, and I think it's time for a little break. Break's over because the Resolute has sent their final message. They know that there's a black hole nearby, so they're gonna ditch within 24 hours. The pressure's on, but John is determined to get it right before that time. Meanwhile, Will gets in contact with Jessica. Oh boy, this really cannot be good. On the other side, however, Maureen gets Don to help with the whole launch operation. Of course, they do want to co-pilot, but nope, doing the right thing sucks.
Doing the right thing kinda sucks.
That's until Judy pulls out the goo-goo eyes, and here we go.
If anyone asks, I got paid for this.
They do one practice run, but with Don in this is looking doable. Time for the real thing. Both of these men say goodbye to their families and their chicken. Then they head for the launch pad. Will is a smart boy, but this isn't one of those moments. Jessica seduces him with the promise of a good robot, and this is really bad.
What if we started over?
The pilots arrive at Jupiter and they strap in. The countdown begins and it's liftoff. The climb begins, but so does Jessica's nasty escape. Maureen walks the two through the rough launch, but here comes trouble. Jessica knocks out Maureen and there goes Jupiter. It doesn't look good for both of them. Going to the next episode, let's step back a bit. Back when people are still on Earth, news breaks out to the Robinson family that a giant meteorite just hit Earth. Maureen is perplexed as to why Earth's space facilities weren't able to detect it on time. While that's going on, Will is busy trying to contact his dad through coded radio signals. He always responds, so keep on trying, Willie boy, and try he does. Back to the present day, Will is in total denial that his father and Don just turned into meteorites. Man, he's huffing that copium pretty hard.
Maybe it's the repeater.
Judy wants to focus on finding their mother because it looks like Dr. Smith kidnapped her. Speaking of Smith, here she is waking up Maureen. Smith needs her to take her to the robot's alien ship.
Take me there.
And man, she should really have her throat ripped out. Back on the ship, Judy is going to try to look for her mother, but she also shuts down Will's offer to help. This makes Will throw a massive tantrum, but he discovers something about a rock that they found in that cave before.
Yeah, it's the rock from the cave.
Turns out that the rock is actually alien dung. Yep, Hiroki makes that clear, and Will thinks they can gather enough of the stuff to use as biomass fuel for the Jupiter. Be warned, however, because this doo-doo is from the top predator of this joint. That's good and all, but Judy's still gonna go look for Maureen. She's right here, taking Maureen hostage and trying to fix the robot near the ship because the robot is responsive to the ship.
I don't understand. I'm doing exactly what Will did.
You know, they should tie Smith up and have her fuel the Jupiter, since everything she says is full of BS anyway. While that's happening, a lot of the survivors follow Will's lead and they go to the cave to excavate carnivore droppings. They go in further and they're essentially in a giant alien predator toilet. Looking up, they also have some guests. Good news, there's enough fuel in there for every Jupiter. Bad news, those things are on the ceilings. Alright, checking in on Maureen and that lying hag. Maureen tries to convince Smith to free her since she might be the only one who can figure out this ship. But of course, Smith doesn't let up since she's the master liar of this show.
Don't be hard on yourself.
Enough gaslighting. Time for some excavation. Victor talks to Will about his radio communicator, but he's still high on the copium that his father's still out there. Victor is quite terrible at giving him a pep talk, so let's just get to digging. Inside, not a peep is made while digging except for this klutz. Out in the fields, Judy tracks down a loose chariot, and that might be Maureen and the hag. Nice to know that the hag did let Maureen walk inside the alien, and Maureen does try to one-up her, but she catches onto her fast. Smith then monologues like Samuel Hayden, but we all know how ancient gods played out. Ticked off, Maureen pushes Smith, but the metal behind her gets a bit freaky. Flashback time. Penny and Will touch this restricted door and their hair stands up. Maureen is here to stop the two, then sends them off. She tries the same thing, and that brings us back to the present. There's something behind this alien wall, and these two are willing to find out. In the cave, Will is still faithful to his dad's survival, and he tells Penny that impossible events happen all the time, so he's still got his cards on the table. Suddenly, Will's radio goes off on its own. John might be alive, but they might not be. All that loud noise wakes up some giant alien bats. Everyone panics. Most of the people get out, but not Penny and her little gang here. They figure out that those pterosaur-looking things are blind, but highly receptive to sound.
They blind.
In another dark cave, Maureen and the hag feel this wall. Then they press together. Open sesame. They find something, but cut to a flashback. This was when Smith, or June Harris, was caught in the Resolute. She escapes the confines of the interrogation room and she comes across a secret room where these two suits seem to be guarding something really important. Turns out this important MacGuffin was apparently an engine. The attack on the Resolute didn't just have any engine, but an alien one. Maureen connects the dots and the meteorite that hit Earth wasn't just any meteorite either. Let's go to that other dark cave while those girls figure it out.
They blind.
The gang left behind walks carefully towards the exit. Of course, this walk was too close for comfort, but they all made it back safely. The gang is met with applause and hugs. Then Will tells Penny that John is responsive with his radio messages. Then they come across Angela again, and she apologizes for her past behavior. Soon, VJ even tries to reconcile with Penny, but rejection. Following this, Judy just found Maureen. She's being tied up by this rotten hat. She makes a bit of a rustle, so Smith is now sus. While that's going on, the robot accidentally touches one of the ship's parts and it begins rebuilding itself. Judy then gets the jump on Smith. Then she frees Maureen. They're about to drive out of Dodge, but guess who's back?
Back up.
It's the robot. It stops them from leaving, and it now has been reprogrammed to be sound wave levels of loyalty to Smith. Finally, we're at the season finale. Will is taking a peaceful look at his old videos of the robot, but those memories will have to change. Because back at the alien ship, the robot fires up the holographic map, and it looks like our boys in space are A-OK. Bad news though, because they say that they only have 2 hours of oxygen left.
We still have a couple of hours.
Back to Bootleg Earth, Penny and Will are getting work done, but the tremors are getting worse. Looks like the other Jupiters have already taken off. Will messages his dad in Morse code that they've got fuel.
Fuel! They have fuel! Yeah, they got fuel!
Then a chariot arrives. Maureen and Judy are okay, but so is Dr. Smith and the robot. That can wait, because John Morse codes back at Will, and he's trying to tell him his location. They're gonna hop to his rescue, and although Smith was reluctant at first, they do have 88 minutes before the Resolute leaves, so Smith gives a green light. Up in space, Don is trying to make a fire signal so that they could be located, but something stings his eye.
I'll just have to feel around and wing it.
So now John will have to do it. Don walks him through, and he gets to work. On the Robinsons' Jupiter, Will tries to reunite with the robot, but to no avail. Will has a dark outlook on Smith and the robot now. Maureen and Judy prep the Jupiter. Then a volcano erupts. They need to strap in because this ride will get bumpy. While Maureen performs the final checks on the ship, can someone strap up Smith's mouth? Thanks. The Jupiter launches and off they go. They're up in the exosphere, but there's still gravity. Here's the reason why.
Isn't it supposed to float?
They don't know they're smuggling an alien engine aboard. Victor then contacts them, and he says all the other Jupiters have rejoined the Resolute. Sadly, the black hole is still nearby, so they have 63 minutes to rejoin them. They have insufficient fuel to do a search for John and Don, so you know what the villainous hag wants. Fortunately, Maureen has massive cojones, so she takes the ship on a nosedive and threatens Smith. The kids get out of the hub, and in goes Smith and the robot. Maureen locks the doors, and that impenetrable room is Smith's prison. Maureen talks to her about how fortified that room is because it was designed by her.
They don't expect to be getting out anytime soon.
Now that the pest known as Smith is out of the way for now, the Robinsons get to work. Same with John here, who's still taking orders from Don. Well, now Don needs to see, but he has to cry first to get that space dirt out of his eyes. Back to the ship, the Robinsons get scanning. Then Will blames himself for the robot's transgressions, but Maureen says the robot is only as good as its master. Then the truth comes out about Maureen rigging the test results for Will.
I didn't pass the test, did I?
On the other hand, Smith gets her hands on the instruction book for the hub. Back to the floating space boys. They begin to talk about regrets because Don needs to cry to wipe that face flake off his eyes. So John begins talking about why he loves his kids. And guess what? This finally makes Don cry. He's back on the grid, so it's time to work his magic. Don wires it up and Maureen's ship picks it up, ready the harpoons because that's John. They saw the debris and they got in contact.
I knew you'd find us.
The harpoon is ready, and wait, the robot's pounding just stopped. Smith just got out. They fire the harpoon, then they run out of there. Now it's like Alien, isolation all over again. The Robinsons sneak to the chariot, but the robot catches up to them. Will tries to make the robot realize the power of friendship doesn't work here, buddy, but the laws of gravity do. Maureen comes in just in time for the save.
Get away from my kids!
Then Will ties onto the chariot, opening the airlock. They finally flush the robot out. Of course, John and Don don't know what's going on yet, but the harpoon begins to retract. You know what else retracts? An alien ship, and the robot with it. Looks like this boss battle has a second phase and a second robot to boot. The eyes glow red for effect, and the onslaught begins.
Why is it pointing at us?
The second robot slings Maureen over, then the chariot, then Will. Too easy. Will is running out of air, and at this dangerous sight, the robot springs back to Will's rescue. He even seals Will's suit back. He even learns a word, but there's still that second robot, so the two duke it out. But thanks to their immense robotic strengths, there's only one way this will end. So the robot makes the ultimate sacrifice and dive bombs the second robot into space with him. The ramp won't close thanks to the damages, so despite Maureen's protests, Will chooses to step out into space and close the ramp from the outside via a crank.
I can't grow up to protect you.
Off he goes, and so far so good. Will reaches the crank and shuts the door. It's gonna be a long climb to the other hatch, however. Will gets scaling, but he suddenly cramps up. It's over. Or is it? John is just in time to save his son. Finally, they're all fine inside the Jupiter. Don treats the kids to a disgusting story thanks to Will's new wound, and the couple reunites. Sadly, John says the Resolute is long gone. He says he owes his life because they shot up the harpoon a second time. But Maureen didn't do that. There could only be one culprit. Maureen turns to the culprit, and she's locked out here in an airlock prison.
There's no way I'm letting you out again.
She claims to be sorry, but we all know she's a dirty liar. Getting back to their new problem, now they have to make do with what they have. But hold the phone, it's the Resolute. Victor leads the rescue to them. Here comes another surprise. Unknown to them, that alien engine is beginning to wrap around the ship, and it sends them to another wormhole. No one knows where they are except for Will. He shows them the old drawing of the robot, and now it all makes sense. Get ready for the end, because that's it for episodes 7 through 10 of Lost in Space, starring Molly Parker, Toby Stephens, and Maxwell Jenkins. What do you think will be in the next season? Let us know at the comments below using #CinemaRecap, and we'll see you in the next space adventure.